in the big leagues and over the moon.
Welcome to the Landing Strip with Nick Lynham and Mikey Garcia, presented by From Financial.
Welcome back to the Landing Strip, brought to you by From Financial, as the Winnipeg Jets find a way to make it 11 straight. They go up 3-1 in the first period. Things are looking good until they're not. McDavid and Draisaitl link up on a late second period goal. Tell me if you've heard that before. Have you seen this team give up a late period goal and then crumble for an entire period after having an intermission to settle down maybe? We saw this Winnipeg Jets team tonight do something even more spectacular. Before we even get into the big conversation, Scott O'Neill's days in Winnipeg, he's toast. This team put up 5 shots on goals. 5 shots on goal for the back 40 minutes of this hockey team. What are we even talking about here at this point? They go up 3-1. Mark Scheifele to Kyle Connor. And I'm getting tweet replies. This is why they're still together. Folks, they've lost, 24? Their last 30 hockey games? I know Mikey enjoyed an article, and we'll be debating that in the second half of the show. But they cap it off. Tanner Pearson with a wraparound. Who would have seen that coming? Josh Morrissey goes Plinko special. And you're sitting there. 3-1. How does this go wrong? What is this team going to do against the Edmonton Oilers? The tank rolls on. They don't even get a point out of this one, which is remarkable in itself. Late period goal. Shut it down for the second or the third period. They did not have a single shot on goal. Not one. Until they got a power play with under 6 minutes left in the third period. Danny Zhelkin debuted, so there's some good stuff there. We'll talk about that. I'm actually excited about the Danny Zhelkin stuff. You know what? On this take, folks, kick the feet up. They've lost 11 straight. They've won 6 of the last 30. They have a hot period. Find it in yourself to enjoy it. There's going to be pretty goals. Revel in it. Because this team will find a way to blow it anyways. This tank is the greatest thing I've ever seen built. There might be Netflix documentaries about the 24-month span in Winnipeg with the Winnipeg Jets have managed to accomplish here. It's incredible. It's horrid. It's embarrassing. It's all any negative thing you want to talk about. But there's something so incredible for it. When you embrace it, you realize there is no run coming. They could win 13 games in a row, and we're starting to have a serious conversation about some playoff hopes that some in the market still seem to have. The tank's locked and loaded. This team will be finishing in the bottom 3. Don't you worry. Let's get into all of it, though. Mikey, how you doing tonight, buddy?
I'm excited for our nightly karaoke set. So everybody watching right now, everybody listening at home later on, get ready because it's that time of the night. Let's hit it. Stop thinking about tomorrow.
Don't stop.
It'll soon be here. Baby, it will soon be here. Another day, another addition to the tank. And they're doing it in the way that only the Jets can. This is the most ethical tank I've ever seen. I cannot believe that they found another way to blow a 2-goal lead, another 1-goal loss. Absolutely incredible. Like you said, they can make documentaries about this later on because I've never seen something like this before. And the best part is there's no easy way out right now. There's not a something on the horizon you can point to that's gonna right the ship and turn it all around. So, like you said, throw your feet up, enjoy the ride. It's all about little moments. Enjoy the little moments of positivity when they happen. And when you get to the end of the game and you look to see that the Jets didn't even pick up a loser point and they stay firmly entrenched in the NHL's basement, that step towards that number 1 overall pick gets closer and closer, baby.
It was funny. After the first period, Frosty Winnipeg, who's been a regular here, was wondering what a winning stream would look like. And I floated the idea to him that if they somehow pulled it off, 40 minutes is a long time for this team to find ways to lose, though. It was never feeling that comfortable. I see on Twitch, someone decided to do the smart thing. Who was it here? Liani Live. I hammered the Oilers at 350 right after McDavid scored that goal. Ladies and gentlemen, hard to do. There's a lot of money to be made betting against these jokers. This team finds a way. Lost track of where I wanted to go there.
Who's your tank award for the night?
Ooh. There's some interesting candidates on this one. Kyle Connor, for the lack of defensive effort, has to be in there. The lack of back check on the McDavid thing.
Yep.
Another game where this great creation, the Winnipeg Jets. I went with my brother today, and I don't think he'll mind me saying this. We were talking about this. We had read the Paul Friesen article, and Jared goes, I'm a Pens fan. For some reason, they think they have Mario Lemieux and Sidney Crosby. And this is another night. They go 2-2 on the scoreboard because of a lack of defensive effort. The anti-tank award might be Luke Shen for asking out. We need that slug out there more often. I got a debate mind in my head. What's your tank award tonight?
It was tough to pick just one, but I gave it a split award. Two guys are going to share it. It's going to be Casey and Pionk for just absolutely giving up on McDavid on that run. Both of them. Pionk is way out in no man's land. Connor, you can literally see him just kind of give up on the play and look over his shoulder as McDavid goes behind him. Both of them were just like, whatever. So, they're going to share my tank award for the evening.
Hey, I'm with some of the chat with the Connor thing. You know what? I got to hammer him on it. That's mine. I'm leaning into it. I see Tico Napoli says the tank award is KFC. Frosty Winnipeg says someone returned the Squirtle back to pet value and he's being readopted.
Yeah.
There won't be much Squirtle the rest of the way here, folks. I still think we're in the midst of an 11-game streak, and I still don't think we've seen the lowest. At least we're playing in games here that there's a chance, even when they quit for 2 periods, apparently.
The best part was when Kevin Sawyer told us that the Jets are going to win 30 of their remaining games to get back into this.
What?
Yeah.
What did I miss?
That was at the beginning of last game, not today's, but the last game. He said that the Jets can easily go on to win 30 of their remaining games.
Yeah, and I'm easily gonna go win a lot of 649 this weekend. What are we talking about here? Over on Twitch, Choices TK's tank award of the night goes to Connor making business decisions. Can't miss the Olympics. You don't get hurt if you don't hustle.
Yep. That's fair.
Matthew Hyman says, almost got a point tonight. Thank goodness they found a way to lose in regulation. As soon as that penalty got called, it was game over.
Yep.
I've seen this story so often. Funny story for you. Beside me today, so my aisle's been pretty empty this year. It's me and my brothers normally, and a pretty empty aisle. And beside us was a couple of physicians, a couple doctors that moved to the province recently. So we were chatting them up. Recent hockey fans because of Four Nations. So hey, Four Nations. The best on best helps the sport. And we're chatting it up. And as soon as that power play comes, I turn to them because they were asking how this all works. And I go, fellas, this is where the disappointment comes. This is where the Winnipeg Jets blow it. And they put together a pretty good penalty kill for most of it. And it ends with Bouchard putting a bar down and putting this game out of reach for this team. It's incredible how consistently you could call the collapse. The fly in the ointment was in December when Scott Arniel publicly said out loud, this doesn't happen in markets. We're going to start talking about a bunch of stuff around the Winnipeg Jets that don't actually happen in competitive NHL markets. There's a lot of seams coming undone here from what I'm watching with the Winnipeg Jets as this goes on. And this was another one of them. But Mikey, as we started off, as we keep moving into this, what was your big takeaway from the Winnipeg Jets tonight?
Stop me if you've heard this one before, but once again, the absolute disparity and the lack of top-end talent between the two clubs just was the difference again, right? The Jets played a good opening 30 minutes. They put it all out there. They did everything that they possibly could. They even got some secondary scoring, right? You got that Tanner Pearson goal. You get a goal from the back end. This should be the recipe. This should be everything. And then once again, they go through this incredible stretch of time where there's no shot on goal whatsoever from the team. They're completely on their heels throughout the entire run of it. They only break out of that because of a power play that's given out 5 minutes left in the third period. And like you said, once that penalty gets called, you know it's over. You've seen it so many times over and over again this year. Humans are great at pattern recognition, right? We've seen this pattern again and again. It's hard not to say, hey, look, I know this one. And lo and behold, there it is. The Jets get a good chance shorthanded, right? They're down at the opposite end right beforehand, but they don't have enough to put it over, and the puck comes all the way back the other way and ends up in the back of their net. And if that's not an absolute, metaphor for their season up to this point, I don't know what would be.
These shows are honestly getting harder and harder.
Right.
When you're talking about big picture.
Honestly, one time I may just replay one of our old episodes after the game and see if anybody notices.
And take a night off it. On this front, though, Blake G got me going here saying, can you please ask those physicians if they could bring Lucius out of a medically induced retirement? My big takeaway here is anybody that still thinks this team can win hockey games consistently. I got a bridge in Brooklyn. I'm ready to sell you. Real cheap too. Going to be a great real estate investment, I promise. Let's talk those details. Hit the email address. Because my big takeaway today, as a team tank guy, I'm only looking for the positive storylines the rest of the way. This thing is so cooked, we don't have to worry. The type of shit we got to be talking about for this team to get back into a conversation where we start panicking about them getting close to a playoff line, they're going to have to win like 10 straight games. Settle in, folks. We are witnessing NHL history. We have never seen a team unintentionally tank this bad. There will be nothing like we're seeing in Winnipeg. If you start changing your perspective and looking at this as a comedy act, this is the best money I'm spending right now and getting out of the house. You're just waiting for the laughter. You're waiting for the collapse where you get to look at these guys and say, yeah, we knew you were frauds. This team is absolutely toast. Find the humor in it. Find the good stories like Danny Zhelkin. What do you think of Danny Zhelkin getting called up right now?
That was an interesting one. We weren't sure how the Jets were going to treat the moving Fleury off with the injury there. So to see that they brought up Zhelkin and scratched Nemestikov was I was a little bit surprised by it, to be honest. I didn't know what direction they were going to take filling that spot. I was pleasantly surprised by Zhelkin himself. I thought he was fine. He looked okay on that fourth line. Scott Arniel's already said he's going to play tomorrow. So we're going to get to see another night of him, and they said they're going to try to get him some more opportunities and some more minutes tomorrow night as well. So the run will continue there. It's better than anything else they've been trotting out, through that ridiculous, churn of bottom 9 guys right now. So, yeah, I liked it. Good for Zilkin. Yeah, it's nice to see DZ out there.
Yeah, no, Danny Zhelkin, great story. This is one of those things, if you're a Winnipeg Jets fan right now, this is a mess. Let's all be honest. We all know this is a mess. We're embracing the mess at this point to have fun with the mess. And I saw Maul Paris. Good to see Maul in the chat, showing some love. That if you want to enjoy this tank and this run, you got to be at the landing strip. It's been great to see Maul in the comments again. Appreciate the love. But Danny Zhelkin, on the other hand, this is the type of story in this season you want to be looking for. He impressed in that prospect tourney. Watching those games on the old Jets YouTube or the WinnipegJets.com, he was like, oh, Danny Zhelkin stood out there. Guy could skate. See where this goes. Had a pretty good camp for a guy that no one's thinking about. No one's thinking about. Who's thinking about Danny Zhelkin coming into this year? Potentially making this team.
Right.
One of those guys makes a bit of an impression in camp. And then I think I'm going to have to start spending money to go to Moose games so this show can get a bit of a future perspective in the second half. I haven't gone to much Moose games, but when I've texted people that frequent the Moose, when we've talked about call-ups, the most frequent name from a lot of people has been Danny Zhelkin for the work ethic and his skating ability, and we know how the Jets can't skate. That guy was clearly one of the best skaters on the ice for the Winnipeg Jets today. I had gotten some comps in some of my tweets saying, oh, he reminds me of Ehlers. And I thought people were kind of nuts with the idea. I wouldn't expect him to be a second-line driver. But you could kind of see it in the skating style and where that comparison would come. He brought some pace. I thought he made a little bit of an impact. Short shifts. I'm happy for Danny Zhelkin, who as soon as he got drafted, he got into that charity work too.
Yep.
This seems to be a good fella getting a chance in Winnipeg. This is one of those stories, if you're watching a tink, as pathetic as the Winnipeg Jets, Danny Zhelkin is one of those stories to find some value in.
Yeah, absolutely. And to echo some of the thoughts out in the chat there, a few people have said it, but I'll point out Gordy's just because it's the most recent there. A lot of people seem to have the the same kind of feeling that they should put DZ on the second line, for goodness sake. Why not at this point? And it's interesting because he's kind of worked himself into playing, second line for the Moose for the last little bit. He's been in the top 6 there. And my brain automatically goes back to Chevy's comment the other day at the press conference, right?
Yeah.
Quote, if you put a player in the wrong situation and they can't achieve the success that they need to keep advancing their career, that's a very dangerous thing. So, yeah, I kind of see where people are coming from, right? Should he be buried on a fourth line, only playing with grinding guys? Do you want to see him up a little bit higher? It'll be interesting to see where his NHL minutes go tomorrow.
You know what the other fly in the ointment was? We were talking about this in one of the Jets Discord groups. So if you're interested in that thing, give us a show. We'll get people into those. But we were talking about this last night, and I started looking at it. And if you're calling up a guy like that, you're expecting him to get ready in the lineup. You know what the fly in the ointment was looking at last game? Vlad Nemestikov had played under 10 games. Or 10 minutes, sorry. About 9:30. Lowest on the Jets.
Yep.
You knew Danny Zhelkin was coming up as a center. We see Nemestikov and Nyquist out of the lineup. We see that fourth line get on the board with Tanner Pearson wraparound. I want to see more of this Danny Zhelkin. At this point, one of the best skaters on the Winnipeg Jets.
Yeah, 100%. Shout out Blake G9 on the YouTube chat. DZ is going to look great on the Habs as their 2C when he's lost on waivers.
He's not going anywhere. Settle down. You know who does want to go somewhere, though?
Mm-hmm. Who's that?
One of my favorite stories this week. Given the shit show of the Winnipeg Jets. We were just talking, actually, the other day. Though, we were talking about a core-level player. We get the first open to change leak of this season. And it happens to be one of the 10 commanders of the year. Luke Shen is open to a change in Winnipeg. What'd you think seeing that report?
To quote Marcus Grant over at the NFL Network, it's nice to want things. Yeah, Luke, I bet you would like to be at a contender right now, and you'd be open to a change of scenery. I think we all would be open to that change of scenery for you as well. Wish you all the best wherever that change happens to be. I'm less certain than you are that there is a dance partner for Luke Shen.
I'm so excited right now, brother.
If there is, by God, I can't wait to see it. I will happily lose that bet, but I'm still doubting that there's a dance partner that wants to take that big lug on. But hey, if it's out there, hop on it. Let's go. Jump on it.
Rylan Medwick on YouTube. We're about to get into that combo next, dude. Don't worry. But I see on YouTube, Jets Empire, who does a great job. Give them a follow on social media. They do a great job aggregating a lot of the Jets news and sources. Says Luke Shen wants out. AJ Jets back says Luke Shen, what a great character. Tikona Pauly says ship him out now and call up Bauer. I want to go a different direction.
Crazy fight Bauer had tonight too.
There was another one, eh?
Yeah, he cleaned them.
I haven't want to see it. Haven't seen it yet. We gotta get into the Stanimal at some point here too. I gotta say. Mackie says, apparently Toronto wants Shen. This story to me is comical because one of the best storylines last year was how the Winnipeg Jets went out of their way to give everything in the world to Shen to make the trade accountable to his family or accommodable. And we've talked about how great it looked. And he's the first one, and to his credit, seems to be a smart man. He's the first one to publicly know this was cooked. For it to come out that he's looking for a change, his agent leaked it. I didn't expect to wake up this morning to hockey Twitter and having multiple teams collectively trying to trade second-round picks for Luke Shen. So maybe we come out of this better. I see Turd Ferguson says Drager was soft selling Shen to the Leafs today or yesterday on Overdrive, and Tanev went down. And it's one of those things, maybe you go back to keep moving forward with Luke Shen ending his career in Toronto. Mikey, I've never been more confident this year that you're going to owe me quite well, and we're going to do better than my 5th round pick.
Ooh, better than the 5th. Like I said, I'd never be so happy to lose a bet in my life if that's out there. Oh boy.
It's coming. We're going to get some positive value out of Luke Shen.
Let's go.
I want to give Justin L. a shout out who points out, I think this is the summary of the season at this point. This run is special, man. Absolutely special. We have to lean into this.
Yep.
We might never see something like this ever again. But I wanted to pivot because Luke Shen's D partner had quite the headlines in The Athletic today from Chris Johnson, the insider.
Yep.
Popped up. It's number 16 on his trade bait board. And what he's hearing, the projected contract Logan Stanley might end up with this summer. Stunned even me. I've been worried about like a $3.5 million times 4 or 5 years. Let's add $10 million onto that. Chris Johnson's talking about the idea that Logan Stanley may get a $25 million contract. He's someone to watch with trade. Mikey, what do you think hearing this report out of the Athletic from Chris Johnson on Logan Stanley and a $25 million contract?
The first thing that popped into my head was, here comes the money. I can't believe that we're, if NHL GMs are going to be so excited to fork over, big dollars for the big log, I am so pro it. I'm so for it. Just in the same way that I was pro Neil Pionk getting the bag last year. I just want it to be somewhere else. I'm just, I would prefer that to be somewhere else. The tough thing is I have a really strong feeling that Chevy, who absolutely loves his draft picks. Those are the things he caught, the guys that he has chosen, especially in the first round, he's got such an affinity for, such an attachment to. And in a season that's been pretty much nothing but down headlines, bad thoughts, and, things coming out, in the team's eyes, announcing a big Stanley extension is exactly the type of thing they would do to be like, look, you know what? Yeah, it was a rough year, but our young players want to be here. Look at the season he had, career high in goals. Look at these fights. He's a fan favorite. I can see it coming a mile away. The same way you saw that Evan Bouchard goal get absolutely blasted. I see Logan Stanley cashing in that big bag here in Winnipeg. As much as I don't want to see it go that way, I do. I think it's coming.
Liani Live says, Mikey, if you could trade him to recoup draft capital, you got to do it. And I don't think you disagree with that,
agree.
Mikey, of course.
I just don't think Kevin Cheveldayoff agrees. I think, as was said on, in some other places, they've put a lot of sweat equity into him, right? It's the gamblers.
Don't get me started.
That's what it is, though. They've put a lot into him. They can't just give up on him now, right? You got to keep putting more and more and more into it so that you can recoup that loss. That's what they. I would bet dollars to donuts that's how they view it. And again, in a down year where they haven't had positive headlines, I feel like they will view the Stanley signing as a way of getting them.
Yeah, you're getting me wound up with the whole sweat equity thing. Let's talk about Logan Stanley. So being there tonight, gotta say, we're talking about, I'm trying to behave tonight. I'm trying to find the good things here in 11 straight. Being in the arena, this is Logan Stanley's city right now. There's a vibe and atmosphere when he winds up for a clapper or gets a one-timer or scraps. And Turd Ferguson points out, where was it here, that he's never seen anyone celebrate a fight win quite like Stanley. This is where I'm at. The tank is locked in. The Winnipeg Jets are a very bad hockey team. You're not digging out of this. Enjoy the Stanley stuff, but the Logan Stanley stuff is also an IQ test at this point. If you are someone that is still saying that it doesn't make sense for the 32nd place NHL team to trade a third pairing defenseman that is having the year of his life, that will never happen again. This is not Logan Chara. This is a shooting bender like we'll never see in the rest of our life. We have never said, we will never see him carry a third pair. This is a guy that tomorrow on the waiver wire, there might be someone better than it. And there's teams willing to, and I believe the Jets are one of them, unfortunately, spend $25 million on this guy, which tells me teams view him as a potential second-line option or second pair option, which tells me the idea of getting a first-round pick for him is very much in play. This is a complete IQ test here. There's the people that are going to get sucked into this idea that this guy has blossomed into some core piece that you couldn't possibly lose in the easiest spot of an NHL roster to build a Stanley Cup contender as a third pairing left D. We've seen some miserable third pairing left D win Stanley Cups recently. Or you do have an IQ that is past the average level, and you realize this is an asset in a billion-dollar business that has positive value at a level that he should not have. And it is time to cash in this year. The Winnipeg Jets are about to show us, because I'm terrified. They're going to buy into this shit.
Yep.
And give them $25 million, and then block Bamidian, block Frage, and see their fans cheer for fights for a 32nd place hockey team.
Yep.
If you want to see this team retool quick, you need the assets that a Stanley could provide right now, because you could replace them on the waiver wire or for like a 6th-round pick. Let's be honest here. You're going to find a buyer. You must take it. if you sign Logan Stanley to a $25 million contract, which may be one of the worst investments at $25 million or more in NHL history. Looking at what we're looking at, I'm all in. I want to renew my season tickets. If that happened, I don't know. This team's cooked. I might get into the fine arts.
Yeah, I mean the WAG's
I
not
might
too far
change
from
what I'm
you.
into.
We could head down there. We can start doing art podcasts. If past performance is any indication of future performance, everything about it screams extension with Logan Stanley. The only way I think he ends up on a different team is if he's requested a trade. If he's
done that in the past.
He has
He's
in the
the only one
past.
that got rope after.
That was during the Grandpa Bones days, right at the very beginning, if my memory is right.
It would have been okay. When did Washington buy Rasmus Sandin out of Toronto? It would have been Dubas's last year at the deadline, because the talk was that here's what I believe that situation played out. Washington paid 2/3 or offered the Winnipeg Jets 2/3 for Logan Stanley, and then they were able to get Rasmus Sandin, which talk about helping their retool. Could you imagine the difference between landing Rasmus Sandin or Logan Stanley?
Yeah.
And the Jets did not want to take 2/3.
Yep.
And that's how that happened. But it would have been Dubas's last year into Toronto.
So that was the 2022-2023 season.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, unless that pops up again and Stanley's agent says they, want to ship out now, or they want to start discussing extensions with other teams, right? Get permission to see if they can find something on their own. I think that's the only way he ends up in a different jersey. Outside of that, I think he is a Winnipeg Jet for the next 5 years. And like you said, probably blocking two guys that we just saw coming up at the World Juniors that, have an absolute potential, right? We all have to watch it. They've put their names kind of, into the national zeitgeist.
Don't get sucked in here.
We're going to have a nice big block of 6'7" standing in their way.
Yeah, looking into the chat, Kaylin Doucette says turning down a first for Stanley might cause me to have a Joker moment. Join the club. Get in the Discords.
It could be a
we'll
new
get a
Mark Stone
revolution
moment.
going. We might have to Maduro Kevin Shovel day off. Too soon?
No.
John Chan says, Nick, you need to pump up Stan's tires on the show to sell them at max value. Hey, we were talking about Columbus is listening. All I got to say, Logan Stanley, 6'7", gets the people on his feet, scoring goals like you wouldn't believe, hitting crossbars on one-timers like you wouldn't believe. Don't watch his film in the D zone because he'll drop the mitts and throw them and get the crowd going. Logan Stanley is the piece you want if you're a contender. And if you want to give me a second and a fourth to replace what I did for Luke Shen, I'll take it. L. May says, I've stood by the Jets through a lot of shit. I've been a Jets apologist. I like Stan. He's entertaining. I think we all agree
100%.
that this has become an entertaining piece of the Jet season. But they said if they re-sign Stan, they're dead to me. Malparis says, Logan Stanley re-signing talk is upsetting me and offers to join Pottery. I'll get into Pottery with you. If they sign this $25 million deal, send me a DM on one of the social media apps, and I'll take a Pottery class with you.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to have to find some new hobby. If they do not cash in on what they're stumbling into here, it would be irresponsible. It would be organizational malpractice. And after hearing Julian Brisebois, let's talk about this, actually. Julian Brisebois today. What's the D-man breaking out in Tampa this year? What's his name again? He's playing with Hedman. What is his name here? So Julian Brisebois is asked about whether he's looking to re-sign Darren Radish,
Oh, okay.
who's having a career year on a $975,000 contract. Darren Radish looks like him all of a sudden. And the Tampa Bay Julian Brisebois model keeps chugging along. And he's asked today, oh, you're looking to extend Darren Radish. Blake G points out J.J. Moser. No, they got him locked up. Another guy that's breaking out in a big way.
Yep.
But let's compare this scenario here. Julian Brisebois, I think, is one of the smarter front offices in Tampa Bay. and he continues to extend that window. He moved off of Steven Stamkos, which is not an easy feat, to go into Jake Gensel. And he starts hitting on, he hits on the Sergachev trade, getting J.J. Moser plus in Tampa Bay. And then they have this Darren Radish bet workout. They paid J.J. Moser. He's asked today, are you looking to sign Darren Radish? And one of the most honest answers I've seen from an NHL GM, and this is paraphrasing, I don't have the quote in front of me, but he essentially says, you know what, we've had him around the last couple of years, and this has been the best we've seen out of him. We're not in a rush to extend him. We want to see where the end of this year goes. And I see a guy like that, and I'm like, oh, this is a smart man. We're not betting on the abnormality. If the Winnipeg Jets bet on Logan Stanley, they're betting against what smart teams like Tampa Bay does. That's what it is at the end of the day, is there's levels to this, and you just cannot do it.
Yeah. But it's true, 100%. And Blake Jeep says, Brisebois knows how to actually identify talent. The Jets have that issue, especially on D, especially at the pro level. They've never been able to identify, talent on the back end for the most part. So especially at the pro level, they don't have it. They value the wrong things in today's NHL is really what it comes down to. So yeah, you're 100% right in looking at the comparison and how that situation's being handled. I'm just worried that we're going to go in that exact opposite way.
Couple takes here. Mike Friesen says, Manitoba Theater Center is great, Nick. If the Jets lose tomorrow, you're going to murder on the Orient Express. It starts January 14th.
Ooh, yeah.
You know what? I'm in that end of town now, getting a new appreciation for Winnipeg. I'm in. And we might get a stream as Nick and Maul doing a ghost movie, Pottery Scene Live, on the next show. We might have to figure some things out here. But I want to pivot here. We're going to be talking all night again for a team that's lost 11 straight. But I see Zero Ghost 8 over on Twitch says, NHL Jets Scott O'Neill after an 11th straight loss. I think we're all getting mental right now in the sense that it's in everybody's head. You have to find a way to get yourself over the hump. We're so close, but at the end of the day, we shoot ourselves in the foot. And I want to ask you, Mikey, after that Utah game right before Christmas, I suggested that before the Olympic break, there would be a coaching change in Winnipeg. They have now kept the streak going. Scott O'Neill is one of the big tank commanders this year. 11 straight losses. Mike Commodore taking victory laps on Twitter and diving all over him. Do you think he makes it to the Olympic break like you did pre-Christmas? Where is this going with Scotty O'Neill, who after each post game at this point feels like a dead man walking, if we're putting it bluntly?
Yeah, it's getting more and more dire every time he comes to that podium after the games lately, or stands in front of the backdrop there. I still think he makes it to the Olympic break. I still think the Jets don't can him before that point. I think that break would give them the cover of being away from the team, everything kind of the focus being other places, to make that change that feels a little more in line with what they're doing. The other half of it too would be, does the search for the new coach start right away? Do they interim it? I think that also plays into whether or not they do it sooner than later. If they find out there is a candidate that they already like, that they're allowed to talk to, that is available right away, I could see a change happening fast. But if not, then I definitely think at minimum it waits till the Olympic break. I shared with you who I thought their next coaching hire is going to be over on Twitter earlier.
Right.
I'm standing by that one. First place in the division for the American Hockey League, Laval Rocket. A welcome home for Pascal Vincent, I think maybe would be in the cards.
Okay, so I want to parlay the Pascal thought into something that I've been thinking about lately. But I want to go to chat first. Noah LaForte says, for your information, seems like morning skate has been canceled for tomorrow. Again, eh? Only media availability at 10:30. Maybe tomorrow there will be a change behind the bench. Mackie says, as much as I don't like Arneal, I really can't put the blame on him. Chevy needs to go too. Aldame says, who the hell do you hire over him? We'll talk about that in a second. Caitlin says, he looks and sounds checked out. Al Camino says he done. Jets fan 24 says, for the tank, I want to continue until the offseason. Yeah, I don't want a coach bump. I don't want a new coach bump right now, honestly.
Right.
As tough as that is. Turd Ferguson says, Arneal's toast tomorrow. T. Kona says, let him ride out this season. And Mackie says, guys, let's be honest. Arneal's not getting fired until June. Brander says, need a new gym. So, Ryland Medwick goes where I think it was and says, I like Pete DeBoer. That was the shot I called after the Utah post-game show. If you want to go back pre-Christmas, I do think Scott Arneal is about to be the sacrificial lamb in Winnipeg. If you just look at pro sports, this team was expected to contend. They've won 6 of the last 30 hockey games. If we get to January 13th here, so if they lose, what, 2 more? Maybe 3 more? If we get to January 13th, December 13th was the last time they won a hockey game. They have lost 11 games straight. He is starting to get clowned by former players. But if you just look at the situation, I think it's going to be a mercy fire at this point. He looks done after post games. He has no answers at this point, and we're going to talk about his article and how he had different he's had different answers than Kyle Connor and Mark Scheifele on why they haven't been split. Maybe this is where we talk about that. I just look at the situation, and I think he's a dead man walking. Paul Maurice's best friend was Pete DeBoer. Pete DeBoer has had trouble with job security. True North, you've never had a problem with job security. Torts might break this team's soul. At this point, if you're going to do it, I don't want to see it. I don't want the new coach bump. But if you're going to do it, I want someone that's going to break this thing at this point. I just want, if I'm being honest with you, I want this to burn the rest of the year.
Yeah. Again, we've talked about how getting this, number 1 potential pick is such a huge advantage in being able to kind of jumpstart where things go from here. That a new coach bump would kind of dig into that. That would kind of hurt the chances of them being able to land one of the kind of big 3, depending on what position you want, that are kind of sitting up there. So it's it's tough. The other part of it too is I know people want a tough coach, somebody that's got the cachet to come in and say, this is the way it is and I'm doing no matter what. The Jets aren't going to want that. The Jets aren't going to go out and hire somebody that's going to come in and tell them, this is what I'm doing, whether you guys want me to or not, right? That hasn't been their MO. They want somebody that does things the true North sports and entertainment way. They want somebody that fits into the family, that fits into the program. I don't know if they're going to go out and grab, somebody who is willing to, make the big changes and do all of that, because I don't think that's what they want, truthfully.
So I don't trust Commodore because I think he's someone that's had or an axe to grind, because Arneal kind of ended his career. And I don't buy necessarily that he has sources in the Jets room, but he is now out there saying, not sure, good question. I am hearing it ain't good behind closed doors. The real Arneal has reared its ugly head, and guys have had it. He's a scumbag. Leanne Live says you have to fucking fire him. Over on YouTube. Maddie wins has the right idea, and I tweeted it as well. You want a tank commander that is hard on this team with true North ties? Mike Friesen had mentioned it a few shows ago. It's time to get old Randy back in Winnipeg. You want something that's going to break this team? Randy Carlisle. But while we're on the Arneal thing, let's go to the Paul Friesen article. And then we'll go on the From Financial Face-Off, and we'll open the phone lines if people want to call in and talk about this team right now. But while we're here, Mikey, I know you took some issue with it. Paul Friesen, to his credit, go read his latest at the Winnipeg Sun. Sat down with Arneal, Scheifele, and Connor and talked about the idea that they haven't been split as a line for the 32nd place team on an 11-game losing streak. That's won 6 games in their last 30 and finds themselves in the pits of hell of the NHL. I'll let you take this away because I know you've been sitting on it. How you feeling about what you heard from Arniel, Mark Scheifele, and Kyle Connor today?
Yeah, like Nick said, go out and definitely read the whole piece by Paul Friesen over on the Winnipeg Sun there. But he asked the question that we've all been wondering, right? Where is this coming from? Is this from the players? Is this from the owners? Is this from the coach? Where is this, inability to split up these two players when, quote, almost every other possibility has been on the table? Almost everything under the sun, right? We've heard all of the metaphors for it. So he asked them, hey, have you guys been asked to play a part to Scheifele and Connor? And if not, would you be willing to? They both answered essentially the same way. Nope, nobody's asked us to play a part. Of course, we would do it if the coach wanted us to. It's not our job to set the lines. We'll do anything they ask us to. Normal player answer, right? What you would expect you would hope out of any guy, especially in hockey where you're not allowed to have any type of real personality. Shout out Prek for that one. It goes to Scott Arniel as well. And again, Scott kind of laughs the answer away. It's not really a definitive thing. Paul says to him, the Scheifele and Connor said they'd be fine, playing a part. What do you think about that? And Arniel said, yeah, they probably would be fine for about a period, insinuating that, yeah, they'll say the right thing to everybody and they'll do it, but they'll bitch at him, as soon as the game's not going their way. It's kind of the vibe I got from that answer. And my takeaway from it was, so either A, the players are straight up just lying. Either Scheifele and Connor are just not truthful in what their answer is, that, they have had these discussions and they've either spoken to Arniel or to Chevy or to Chibin, whoever it is, that they don't want to do it. Or the other side of it is you have a coach who is so afraid of losing the locker room after losing it the first time around as a head coach that he's self-limiting his own lineup and not even broaching the subject or actually really considering it because he doesn't want to piss off the two players that are, one, producing and two, he maybe deems as the trendsetters, the ones that are going to keep him from getting locked out of his second locker room. So neither one's a good look. I think both should be fairly embarrassing in my opinion. It feels, maybe a little bit more like the second one as opposed to outright them flat out saying no to his face. But either way, I think it's a bad look.
So I want to point out a couple things before I dive into my thoughts on this, because I think a lot of people know where I'm going with this. Tree G pointed out that Mike Commodore has pointed out a lot of nasty things, or said a lot of nasty things. And Mike Friesen says Commodore is also a scumbag, and that's typically where I stand. I think he has an axe to grind. I wouldn't read into it too much, but you're starting to see that smoke, at least out there publicly. And I think it's notable when you start to see a team slide for 11 games and the tide start to shift. We talked about how Chevy was throwing him under the bus, saying the defensive structure is the biggest problem.
Yep.
But let's talk about that article, because I think it's impossible to ignore. So when the Jets, I guess let's call it the era 1.1, with like the tail end of Wheeler's days transferring into the Lowry captain days, it had become quite clear that Blake Wheeler had gotten too much power in the room, control over his own situation, and it was harming the team. There was also a bit of an asshole element to it and how he treated people, and that's very much existent. But you'd think a team that found themselves in the spot before would not find themselves back there again. When I read that article, all I heard was dishonesty, because Kyle Connor and Mark Scheifele both said they have not been approached once this year about the idea. Scott Arniel laughed it away, and like you said, talked about the idea that, they wouldn't want to do it after 20 minutes. Scott Arniel's also been telling us, we've been bouncing it around, and it's going to happen. Or it might happen. It's the nuclear option. Guess what? The nuclear option hasn't come out when the Winnipeg Jets are the most pathetic hockey team in the NHL. Mm-hmm. The nuclear option doesn't exist because the nuclear option is out of the hands of the Winnipeg Jets coaching staff. Let's start putting this out here. You read that article and go read it and just think about it, what it all means, going through Friesen's piece. You talked about Arniel not wanting to lose the room and not lose those two because that'll be toast for him for sure. Who's to say he hasn't lost the rest of the team who are struggling through this?
Yep.
And this is where this becomes a problem. This has become a problem because, as Mike Friesen says here, thinking about a long shot, Tortorella or DeBar higher, would you rather total end of 55-81 calling his shots plus a 10th overall pick, or let this continue and get the first pick? If you're looking at this from what the franchise needs for the next 10 years, I want that first pick. But I do think if you want to get to the root of changing this, this has to stop. This can't continue. If you look back at this, and Rick Bowness did an interview, which podcast was it? Someone is in the chat has known what Rick Bowness did. But even Rick Bowness, who's a true Norther at this point, let's be honest with it, and Arniel's his guy, was like, oh, he's done all the right line changes so far. He's done all the right stuff. Rick Bowness knows the rules of the Winnipeg Jets hockey. Rick Bowness has to defend Scott Arniel. Let's go back to Rick Bowness. Rick Bowness seems to think Pierre-Luc Dubois and Mark Scheifele should have been on separate lines, and that PLD fit better with Kyle Connor. And yet 3 games before the playoffs, when things are ramping up, all of a sudden we see Mark Scheifele as a right wing on PLD and Kyle Connor's line.
Mm-hmm.
I feel pretty confident to say that Rick Bowness approached Mark Scheifele and said, hey, I think PLD should be the center with Kyle Connor. I want you to be the second line center, but if you need to be, you're the right winger. And what did he choose, Mikey?
Winger.
At that point, I think Rick Bowness knew he was not going to win in Winnipeg.
Yep.
Because that's the decision Mark Scheifele made. Like all this talk about a 2C. Every year we're talking about a 2C. But the year that we have 2 centers that are good enough to go on a run, Mark Scheifele becomes a winger right before the playoffs so that he could play
With
Kyle Connor. Scott Arniel, when Rick Bowness was sick, and Scott Arniel stepped in, to Scott Arniel's credit, during the midst of a losing streak, split them up going into a game in Washington. Winnipeg Jets, after 40 minutes, were leading the game. He had gone to the Oilers, Scheifele, Velarde line. The only game we have seen it since they went on that run. All of a sudden, for a team that was winning for the first time in 6 games, the third period, we get Mark Scheifele, Nik Ehlers, Kyle Connor. Scott Arniel wasn't the head coach, and he made a call. Who's to say he didn't get a call?
Yep.
At that second intermission.
Mm-hmm.
Kyle Connor goes down for 21 games. We see an elite first line in Ehlers, Scheifele, Velarde. And Scott Arniel, going back to it that one time for 40 minutes, is all we've ever seen. Let's start connecting the dots, folks. You're hearing different stories from Mark Scheifele, Kyle Connor, and Scott Arniel publicly. If you look at the history of this seems weird. We heard the ownership has looked at this as a fan. We heard the ownership publicly endorsed in the last 12 months. Mark Scheifele will get a statue in Winnipeg. This whole 81-55 thing goes past the head coach. Let's start connecting the dots. I'm not a conspiracy theorist here. This is very weird by NHL standards. I think it's very obvious. And this is part of why the Winnipeg Jets are not only stuck, but they're in the bottom of the league, not willing to try the one thing that they have left, and will be stuck moving forward with even a lottery pick. Think about it. Where am I wrong here? Where am I wrong?
I mean, you just laid out dates and facts. You can infer what you want from those dates and facts, but really all you said were just, right? Those are the facts of what happened at the time. And it's hard not to read into that, who's really kind of in charge there. Since we're doing a little bit of conspiracy corner, I wonder if there's anything in the, Scheifele was passed up to be captain, right? That ended up on Adam Lowry's jersey. I wonder
right call. The right decision.
100% the right call. But I wonder if some of not having the control in that way has kind of led to wanting a firmer grip on his line mates, his ice time, his usage, that type of thing, as a way to kind of placate the possibly, I don't know, like just speculating, possibly, hurt feelings at being, passed over for being the captain. You're the first overall, or not first overall, you're the first pick in the franchise's new history. You're supposed to be the heir apparent to the city's most beloved, hockey son in Dale Howardchuk, and then you don't get that C on your jersey. I wonder if there's anything to that. Again, just my own speculation.
You know what? While we're on the conspiracy stuff here, because Jets fan says, do you think Scheifele learned this from Wheeler? All I'm saying, if you look at Detroit, let's look at the Wheeler leadership group. Scheifele got passed over as C, the best decision the org made. Andrew Kopp and Sherrod are no longer wearing permanent A's for the Detroit Red Wings. Wheeler was an afterthought in New York. And you still have these issues of putting two players on a pedestal. They are breeding the Wheeler issue all over again. What are we talking about here?
Yeah, it feels like just a continuation of it. Maybe the locker room issues didn't quite get solved just with the removal of Blake Wheeler. It seems like maybe there's a little bit of that ghost still in there.
0 goes 8 goes somewhere I want to go. But at the hour mark, we got to get to the From Financial Faceoff at some point. This was all connecting. Let's get to the From Financial Faceoff. But 0 goes 8 on Twitch goes somewhere that I've been thinking about a lot more lately than I ever thought I would. What was the difference in the Jets versus Edmonton Oilers game? What is your From Financial Faceoff? We want to hear it in the chat. And as we get through this, if you're looking to call in, feel free. We'll stay on and take some calls and talk about your Winnipeg Jets.
Let's hit it. Right on. 1-204-800-0409. 1-204-800-0409. Get on the line. Give us a call. Let us know what you're from Financial Faceoff and just anything else you want to talk about tonight.
Couple points before I ask you yours, Mikey. Mike Friesen points out Kyle Connor came back like 3 weeks early from his injury too when that line was going. Caitlin Doucette points out, if Wheeler got to do it, why can't I? Type mindset. But on to the From Financial Faceoff. What is yours on this night?
Sorry, one sec here. Again, you can point to a million things, little pieces throughout the game. The collapse of not being able to take any shots for half of the fucking game at one point. But really, I'm going to zero in on the TSN account tweeting out 5 minutes before Connor McDavid scores the goal that the Jets have shut him out since the 2022-2023 season, and that there's only a period and a little bit left to go. And can 97 go another game without a goal? And literally 5 minutes later, he pots that into the back of the net, starting the comeback. So all joking aside, it's the goals at the end of the periods. Again, you had, I think this is the third game in 4 tries where the Jets give up a goal right at the end of a period to kind of start the comeback. So they did it again today. They just, they're not able to kind of close out the periods. It's those little mistakes, the brain farts that we've seen all year long. And once again, it cost them.
On that, I see over on YouTube, Jets fan 24 is on the same lines. Nino knowing how important the tank is and took the penalty. Over on YouTube, my guy Huge Ass Vibe says Vegas was a 10 out of 10 tank job. Edmonton was an 11 out of 10 tank job tonight, fellas. This thing's locked in. This thing is pedal down. You do not have to worry about it. You can enjoy the occasional win that's going to come. They're going to win at some point. I haven't seen the out of market scoreboard. We'll get into that. We'll get into the tank sim. But on the From Financial Faceoff, Tico Napoli says the From Financial Faceoff is tanks alive. This tank's alive and well, baby. We do not have to worry. This team stinks.
Yes, indeed.
Neil DeBeck points out for this segment, outside this market, 55 and 81 aren't nearly as elite as the Jets and fans make them out to be. More so on the From Financial Faceoff, Ted Ferguson is wondering about Helly demanding out and forcing the rebuild. Trade 55 and 81 next. So done. think you're going to have to get to the root cause at some point.
Yep.
You can't let another Wheeler situation come up.
Nope.
Neil DeBeck says from Financial Faceoff is KFC tanking on the back check, and he had gotten the vote on the tank award for the lack of effort defensively. Hey, there's never any downsides, Scotty and Neil said to that line.
That's right.
It's all good. Everything's good there.
And you know what else is
Never
good?
going the other way.
We've got the mayor of Transcona on the line. Are you ready for this?
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Mayor,
The mayor.
thank you for calling in. You're on the landing strip.
Gentlemen, tonight's game, I won't touch too much on that. I guess, what do you say, Hellbuck looking a little mediocre out there. KFC mailing it in on that D-work on McDavid, and at that point, you know the game's over, right?
Yep.
So, I mean, like you touched on it a bit. I mean, at this point, Shifley and KFC, pretty selfish, constantly putting themselves ahead of the team. I mean, what does that say for the rest of the guys? Like seeing that, it kind of shows who runs the team, you know, like not so much the coach, not so much, you know, it's like, I don't know, was it a clause in the contract? It almost seemed like it, because as soon as KFC signed, 55 basically said right in front of everybody the first interview, I got my line mate for the next 7 years.
Yep. And KFC said that in the article today, that it was a big reason that he signed. You just can't have the inmates running the assignment like that.
No. So I'll take us to something that I was thinking about a little bit more other than the game, because I'm all excited about the draft. To me, I'm just as much a fan of all that stuff and the junior stuff as this hockey, right? So if I'm going to throw a little scenario at you to think about, although you might answer it now, everybody's going to think I'm a little crazy, but I have a scenario where we do trade the first overall pick.
Let's hear it.
Okay, but we trade down. If we get the first pick and we're not going to get any worse than a second or third, and if we know what those two teams want, we possibly make a trade with somebody down like a Van or a Chicago, because we actually don't need a winger. Stenberg will probably be the best guy in the draft, but we need a center or a defenseman. So either Veeroff or Lawrence. If we know they're going to be there at third spot, maybe we could trade down to Van for their second and 27th, or next year's first, or to Chicago for their fourth and 15th, because we could still get Lawrence at fourth, and then we could load up at somebody else at the 15th pick. Kind of get what I'm saying?
Hey, T-Kona, I got to ask you here, and I know Turd Ferguson's in the chat, so you can confirm this. I know I had sent a message late last night after consuming some enjoyables, and I had sent the exact same thing you're talking about here, where if you could take a first overall pick, and I've been watching some more Ivar Stenberg lately. I think he's going to be a real player. I'm really excited the more I take time to watch him on YouTube. I think you're thinking along the right lines, where I know Kyle Davidson with Chicago had offered the third overall pick and the following year's pick unprotected for number one for Matthew Schaefer. So it would have been Frondell and a future first unprotected for Schaefer. I like where you're going with it, because then you're betting on a team still being in that top 10 next year and looking at another top 10 pick to start juicing this rebuild. I like where your head's going, because I think it makes sense if you want to get this going as quick as possible. I know we're getting ahead of ourselves with it all, but T-Kona Pauly, I really like how you're thinking here.
Well, I mean, yeah, and I mean, to add to that thought, well, thank you for that, but to add to my thinking, well, I got the thinking cap on, I mean, Chevy can't be the guy for all that. He won't even be that creative.
God, no. God, no.
Like, he ain't going to think about doing that. So, like, yeah, I don't know. It's just a thought. I mean, like I say, I like the draft part of it and all that. I get a little amped up for that. So I'm going to start paying a lot more attention to per se it and some of the players and things like that. But I mean, I think we already got our top like 4 or 5 guys kind of already eyed up on, right? So, but
I think so.
yeah, I don't know. I mean, Stenberg would be great and all, but I don't think we really need a winger, right? So, you know, if we can get that Lawrence or Veeroff, something like that. But yeah, I'll let you guys go mill it around a bit more and come on, somebody else pick up that phone, make a call.
Hey, I appreciate you, Tico and Paulie.
Oh, wait, one more thing though, Nick. One more thing. Tonight, gummies or shots? You look a little lit there.
Gummies and some beers, maybe.
Atta boy. All right.
Still,
okay, guys.
Still
later.
get a show going, buddy.
That's perfect.
All right, continuing on here. A couple thoughts on that exact combo, and then I want to ask you your thoughts, Mikey, even though we're getting way too ahead of ourselves. Where Choice TK says, yep, this year is a tier of 4, no clear number one player. Totally agree. We saw Tynan Lawrence is going to spend the second half of the year in the NCAA. I'm looking to see where that goes. Rylan Medwick, fair counter to this, is saying, we need top-end talent. I disagree with trading down 100%, and I get that. And I've been watching more and more Ivar Stenberg. I'm becoming obsessed with guy. I gotta be honest here. Maul wants to shout out Ticona Paulie saying, we already do think you're crazy, Ticona, and we appreciate you here on the landing strip. Terry Ferguson confirms that I did talk about the same idea last night. Mikey, way too far ahead of ourselves. But if Tynan Lawrence has a good second half and the Winnipeg Jets are looking for their next 1C, do you think about the idea of playing down and potentially adding another first?
So in a draft like this where you've got a few guys that potentially could go number 1 overall, especially depending on where each team kind of values the holes in the organization and what things they, kind of are looking for, those are always the chances that I look at for this exact opportunity, right? If you can maximize what you want, versus what other people want, it's always a positive thing to try and do. And we know that the Jets have their own draft list when it comes to things. They generally don't go off of the big board, quote unquote. So in a year that everybody is staring at Gavin McKenna, I could see them shifting and going at Lawrence. Do I trust that they're willing to be creative and interesting and come up with proactive ways to do things like that? No, I would almost I would almost assume they would go and just draft Lawrence first and not even think about it. That does seem kind of like in line with what they do. The thing I'm kind of looking for, since this is like we said, way too early to be kind of really hitting the minutia of, the thing I'm looking for in the short term is once we get close to that deadline for this season, are the Jets weaponizing their open cap space? Are they taking in some bad contracts to add some extra picks and things at the deadline this year? If that's what if they are at least starting there, then I may be willing to see if they're going to try to get creative with it and show that they understand where they are and what the rest of the league is. If we get to the deadline and it's just a Nyquist that gets moved out for just something or futures, and they don't really weaponize the available cap space that's there, then no, I don't see them doing anything remotely interesting like trading back or trading down, even though they should be looking at any way to maximize the amount of value they can get back.
Hey, I like that we're even having these conversations. A few more thoughts on it, and we're gonna keep bumping. We got a few places to go here, man. We might be going an hour and a half tonight. Kalen Doucette says, I get the appeal, but a point per game player in the SHL as an 18-year-old is effing insane. I'm falling in love with the idea of Stenberg. So am I. Infinity Comment points out, Lawrence playing with Boumediene at BU, but give me Stenberg. LS Salter says, trade down all the way. It's needed to rebuild quicker. Rylan Medwick says, if you could trade down to 3 or 4 and pick up another first, then do it. But I don't know if a team offers that in this draft, which is possible. Chicago did it, but we're talking about Matthew Shaver. Infinity Comment says the Jets never trade down for an extra second rounder when we pick in late in the first. The Carolina special. A great point on how different teams do it. Ryland also points out Stenberg looks like a play driver, and we desperately need those types. Nicholas at night gets it and says, I'm also going for Stenberg at this juncture. On the flip side of why something like this can make some sense, and Choices TK points this out. DuPont next year, you can get 2 shots at him. He's the next elite level player. And I don't know if there's a quote-unquote generational in Stenberg, but what he's doing is freaking incredible. But a Landon DuPont or a more center-heavy top of the draft and having 2 shots at it, I think there's some value there.
Yep.
Where did I want to go here?
I've got a caller if you're ready.
Let's go to the phone lines.
All right, we got a caller. Caller, what's your name and what would you like to talk about?
Hey, it's the Jets Pope.
What's going on, Jets Pope? How you
I
doing,
wanted
buddy?
to talk about something I'm kind of starting to get worried about, which is I'm obviously on Team Tank here. Not too upset about watching these losses pile up, but I am a little worried about watching, the clip of Hellebuck on the bench looking so dejected, looking like he's deeply regretting signing this contract. And I look at the optics of this organization not making any changes, and I worry about players like Morrissey, like Hellebuck, what they're thinking watching this go down, and Chevy's refusal to do anything, including firing Arneal. I understand that keeping Arnie would be the best thing for the tank, but I also wonder how long you can let this go without getting to the point where these players with, huge competitive mentalities are going to start wanting out. Like, that's what I worry about, riding that line between, obviously, we want to get a high pick here because this season is shot, but I also worry about a guy like Hellebuck demanding out. I understand he's 32, but he's, put up some of the best numbers of an American goalie of all time, and goalies do have later primes than regular players. Goalies like Hasek were dominant for late into their 30s. I'm concerned about the GM not doing something to appease, an all-star player like Hellebuck. Obviously, I understand Morrissey's probably going to not put up with this for much longer either. And I'm just concerned about the ramifications of going too hard on the tank in terms of losing some of our core also because of this.
Hey, Timo, thank you for the call, buddy. I appreciate you being here. We're going to dive into that. You're the man. I look forward to you rocking the Jets Pope at Whiteouts in years to come, buddy. You take it easy.
Hey, thanks, buddy. Have a good night, you guys.
You too, bud. Mikey, what do you think about Demo's concerns there?
Yeah, that's it always is a worry, right? You don't want things to get so bad during the course of the season that the pieces that you want to stick around start demanding, trades and requesting out and those type of things. I think the thing that maybe is kind of playing in the Jets, favor in this aspect is that a lot of these games have been quote unquote close. They've been in a lot of games as they've said. They've, talked about how it's just, a couple moments here or there that are costing them the game, that, if they could play 40 minutes that one way, they just need to get to 60 minutes playing that, right? So while we know that that's more lip service than reality, I do think those things are important in the room and keeping up morale, because you do have guys that have to be here the whole way through. So I think while we're embracing the tank and hoping that it holds on enough that they can get a high enough pick when that lottery, when those lottery balls come through, I think the thing to remember is that, they're still going out there. They're still putting on they're still putting on the skates. They're still putting on the pads. And they're still in some of these games, sure. So that's probably, hopefully, helping them out. It's a tough one because they've gone so many games in a row now with the losses. It's a national story. They're getting asked about it every single game, so that can be a bit of a problem. But I don't know. I think that it's not going to hopefully carry over year to year. I think the players understand the situation. They know what the league is like. And I think they get that this can be a down year, a bad year, and if things go the right way, it doesn't have to be long term.
On that topic, some comments in the chat on YouTube. Rylan Medwick says, playing Helly 10 games in a row during the skid must be ruining his confidence. Nicholas at Night says it's going to have to get worse for True North to wake the fuck up. Old Mike says Hellebuck can ask to be traded if he's not happy here. The problem is, who are you trading him for? That will come to Winnipeg. And I got to say, we've been making fun of my gummy experience. I've been doing some Puckpedias, blowing up the Winnipeg Jets lately. Maybe we'll bring those into an episode here and discuss what something like that might look like, because that's how I'm spending my time lately. Jets fan 24 says, nah, Helly is a very confident person. Bomberlane points out the Org has wasted Helly's prime. The Scoutlet says, we used to make fun of the Coyotes, and now we've become them. And Ryland also says, wouldn't be shocked to see a Roy moment with Helly, if I'm being honest, if nothing changes. Here's what I'm at. Huge Ass Vibe says, this is a hell of a therapy session, eh, boys? Nothing but facts, all goddamn show. I appreciate you. If you enjoy this experience, after another Winnipeg Jets loss, 11 straight at that point, let your friends know, let your fellow Jets fans know, your fellow season ticket holders know, your family know. Like and share this. We're going to keep bringing this outside of a little break around my surgery. We're here to help guide you through this tank.
Always here.
But on this topic, if I'm putting it bluntly, as I mentioned earlier in this show, I've reached my Joker point. I want this to burn. And if it's going to take this organization waking up through a core player trading out or asking out, which has been the only way we've seen a motivated Kevin Shoveldayoff in years past, I value the next 10 to 15 years and the health of this organization more than these players I've grown up on. I was having this conversation with someone, Gunnar Stahl, on the old Twitter machine, and we were talking about this. And he had mentioned, he's like, you must have grown up on this core. This is what you know. And it's tough. We're going to not see some of these talents at some point. But at this point, I am more worried about the loyalty to this core and what it means to the future of this franchise. That if that's what it takes, and it's going to be hard, it's not going to be a good moment for the organization. It's not going to be a pride point. It's going to be a problem. I am ready for it because it's going to lead us the direction this desperately needs to go to bring better days ahead for the Winnipeg Jets.
Yeah,
and it sucks.
It's short-term pain for some hopeful long-term success afterwards. It just, nobody wants to see the player that they've got on the back of their jersey at home leave town. You know, it's emotional. Sports is emotional. That's kind of just the way that it is, right? Fans are fanatical. That's why we're fans. And yeah, you grow attached to these players and to these moments, but it's never easy. You just kind of have to bite the bullet and know that it's for the best overall. And the longer you wait, the worse it gets, right? The longer that you put it off, the worse that the whole situation goes. So it's the old Band-Aid thing, right? You got to rip it off quick and just bear it.
I want to bring up the loyalty thing because Zero Ghost 8 has been meaning to go there, and I've been meaning to run this idea by you, and I wanted to save it for the show. I don't even know if you're going to be ready for this. Before I get there, I do want to say Archivist Athletica says, I wish the org was not petrified of a rebuild. Seems to be a common thing in Canadian markets, but I want to say I could not agree more with that take. So, to get to Zero Ghost 8's thoughts, and to shout out Leanna Live says, wow, that's a beautiful way to think about it. Thanks for that. Hey, we're here. We're going to get ourselves all through this here if we can. But I want to bring this up, Mikey. An interesting idea. You had just mentioned the idea that you hope the Winnipeg Jets use their empty cap space to help the future. Maybe get some assets, taking on some bad money. There's some really bad money on your Montreal Canadiens who happen to be drafted by the Winnipeg Jets at number 2 overall. Mm-hmm. I've been thinking more about it lately, and it just might be clinging to something. But when you think about it, after he was ready to leave Columbus, there were some leaks about wanting to return to Winnipeg. This team needs a cheap bet for some shooting talent. His career is on the brinks of being in trouble. This would be like another Jonathan Toews level bet. Is there some way that Winnipeg and your Montreal Canadiens can link up on getting some future assets to take on Patrick Laine?
What better way for the Winnipeg Jets to usher in a number 2 overall pick than with their last number 2 overall pick? It makes perfect sense. Bienvenue, Patrick. Welcome back to Winnipeg. It's, like you said, it's some heavy money that's stuck on the books there right now in Montreal, who are trying to kind of work through some things. They've got picks that they can use to offload it if they absolutely need to. And there's been the kind of rumors right beforehand that he was open to coming back now that the big Broad Street bully isn't in the locker room anymore to yell at him. So it would be kind of hilarious and a little fitting to bring him back. I loved Patrick Laine. I was really upset that it didn't quite work out the way that we were all kind of hoping for that the hype for the number 2 overall guy, the finish thing of it all. He came out firing when he first started. I bring it up all the time, but he was the 4th fastest player in NHL history to score 100 goals. Like the goal scoring talent was there. It just, off ice things I think ended up really costing him more than anything. So yeah, if the Jets are willing to get creative with it and get some assets for a bad contract, I've got no problem bringing Laine home.
Like that's the whole idea, right? They would look at it as a bit of a PR thing, paying to bring the old sacred kid back.
Yep.
Get that scorer back in the lineup. Where I do think Laine is toast, unfortunately. But I've been wondering about it more than I'd like to admit. Let's dive into the chat on it. Joyce's DK says, no, you can't be this cooked. He is cooked. Grant Bancroft says Laine with a laugh. Leanna Live says, laugh my ass off, please. Please, God. Joyce's TK says, UFA next year, so why not? But no way they can re-sign him. I actually think, oddly enough, in my sick, twisted world, I look at a scenario where I think Laine is on the bubble of not being in the NHL anymore. Like, it has not been good.
Yep.
And he looks back to the market where he had success. And the Winnipeg Jets need cheap shooting talent and to bring people to fill their seats. I actually think the UFA route makes way more sense for where this is going and just trying to sell seats than people think. Like Tico Nabali says, I like Laine, but he is washed. I'm not saying this is a good idea. I could see this being a Hail Mary swing in a way that I wasn't thinking about a month ago.
Especially if you can be paid to take on the remainder of the contract, right? That's the big part of it, is get something for it. Don't do it for nothing.
Archivist Athletica says, I've been a staunch Chevy hater since the Laine trade. Yeah, I just wanted to have a little fun little combo on the way out. Let's get into a tankathon sim. Let's get into, do you want to do 3 stars on the night at this point?
No. My number 1 star goes to the Tony Romas that I had yesterday. It was really good.
Mike Friesen says, Laine and Perfetti 4th line. Let's go.
All right, let's hit the tankathon.
Let's get to the tankathon.
3, 2, 1. Yeah. Oh, no. Damn it. All right, well, we dropped 1 spot.
Hey, no way. We dropped 1 spot. We get a top 2 pick. St. Louis, 2 in a row. Fuck those guys.
Oh, sorry. No,
Hey.
that is not today's tankathon. My apologies. That was the last game. Here is today's tankathon.
I was gonna
We
say this.
did win this one. Jets number 1, Anaheim number 2.
Anaheim jumped up 5 spots. Holy smokes, good for them.
Yeah.
So, 2 things. We're going to keep chatting here. St. Louis was on the old one there. I'll say this. I don't think it's possible because he has the full no trade clause. But if you wanted to buy and start changing in the future, it seems that Robert Thomas is available. That is the level of player signed long term that you would find me acceptable of. But he's got a no trade clause, so let's not get too excited.
Yep.
Winnipeg wins the lottery. who are you taking leaving today?
Ooh, at number 1 overall, I've been really sold on Stenberg lately. The call out have been real big and loud on it. I've been able to watch a little bit more. I'm liking what I see. I'm still probably. One more time. I'm still gonna probably take Verhoff if I end up in that top 3 spot anywhere in there. But it's getting closer and closer the more I watch of Stenberg.
The details in Stenberg's game, to have a little bit of an edge for a skilled player, to put up nearly a point a game, and we'll see where the second half goes in the SHL, playing pro in Sweden, has me quite interested. I do want to see where Ty Lawrence's NCAA second half goes.
Yep.
As this team could use a center, and we've been chasing a center forever. We'll be diving into all of that. We want to thank you. Another great night, another big number in the live chat. We'll be here leading the tank as the Winnipeg Jets continue to have a historical NHL low. We'll be back
tomorrow.
Back-to-back.
We've got 2 winnable games coming up, right? You've got the Kings, who have only won 3 or 4 in their last 10. Same with Jersey, who's only won like 3 in their last 10. Jersey's been having just an absolute mess of a time lately. So does the streak end, or do the Jets find more interesting and creative ways to blow it?
What's your prediction going into it?
Oh, man. I'm going L tomorrow night still on the second half of the back-to-back. I think that's still going to be too much for them, but I feel like New Jersey is the get-right game. They've just been blown out way too much lately. I think that's going to be the one the Jets steal.
And there's starting to be more smoke around Fitzgerald's job in New Jersey. And all I'm going to say is if he gets canned, the Winnipeg Jets and the New Jersey Devils have the same amount of playoff wins in the last 4 years. Keep that in mind.
Oof.
As firings start to happen around the rest of the league. I would like to thank you all for being here. We'll be back tomorrow. I think they're losing it. The LA Kings have given them a hard time the last couple of years. It is a back-to-back. This team's fragile as hell. It's a back-to-back. The Kings are going to make this 12 tomorrow. And we'll be back here to talk about it. Hopefully there's some more news as we try and grind our way through the back 40 of the Winnipeg Jets unintentional tank. The greatest unintentional tank of all time. We love you. We appreciate you. Better days will come. Let's just hope sooner rather than later. We'll be back tomorrow.
Right on. Good night, everybody.